If you demolishing the house, you want to have your land cost sort of similar to your construction costs. Let's just say they need to be compatible. Otherwise, I just find in a duplex build, that's normally how it's going to work, because the construction cost needs to reflect what the local buyer wanted to have. And the land acquisition cost, obviously, if they are too low, that means you're in the low to medium market. So provide a low to medium market finish is reasonable. If you want to spend, say, $1.7 million, the construction cost doesn't have to come up to exactly 1.7, but it should be somewhere around maybe 1.2, 1.3, and pull back down that construction cost a little bit just to even them out. It doesn't have to be a flat surface. It will always be, a percentage, say 10, 20%, 15% difference, but they shouldn't be varying too much. We had a nearly just less than 1.1 purchase price. That was 2 years ago. Construction costs had a major increase. We budgeted for about, I think it was just over $1 million. Now, the whole cost at the time we get into the construction contract for that particular property was about 1.5. So there's a bit of discrepancy there. Now, I try to just marry up the two, kind of like, if it's $1 million, maybe 1.2, 1.3, don't go over. If it's a 1.5, $1.6 million purchase price, 1.7, 1.8 on the construction is okay. Just as a basic rule of thumb for you to consider. I'm just trying to tell you what the thinking is going to be behind how you work out the pricings. You would think an old house sitting on a separate title should worth more. So when I spoken to the guy who is doing that job, he was estimating around $1 million to $1.1 million resale price of the old unit. So if his estimate was correct, at about $1.4 million is his purchase price. If it's a villa or townhouse of 20 to 30 years old, worth about $750 to $850, they're aiming to sell their old house, freshly painted, blah, 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 Torrance title at about 1 mil to 1.1. So if you do it that way, just on paper without looking into any other cost, 1.4 take away, let's just be on the lower side, you should have got about $400,000 debt left over on that block of land after you get rid of the old house. Let's just say there's going to be another $100,000 for your DA cost and holding cost, blah, blah, blah. So essentially, you would have landed on a block of land at about $500,000. So they bought the block of land at 1.4. They want to sell the old house without the backyard for 1.1 or $1 million. The rental income on the new build would be anything from $1,250 to $1,350 per week, just on the new build. So that's the pricing dynamic about what things will cost on that kind of 1 to 2 lot subdivision setup. Obviously, you want to go on $1 million, then that should be okay. We just need to aim for, okay, maybe we don't build a house for 600, we build a house for 550. We don't go really all out on our finishes. You just downgrade your kitchen, bathroom, all of that in the new build to meet that 550, because you don't want to spend too much while people is not going to appreciate that value for it. When you're doing this sort of semi-development style, what's more important is the location itself, is whether you can do what you're going to do, i.e. 1 to 2, or demolish and put a duplex, or demolish and put a triplex. The money is in two parts. The money is in development itself because you're creating something new the market doesn't have. 2 is because the market is trending upwards by the time you sell it. Criteria, I think we need to go get something 1 to 2 lot subdivision. I want to hire you as a buyer's agent. Obviously, I'll be start to making phone calls to these people to say, this is my criteria. You send it to me, I'll have a look at it. It's only when I found a property that we can subdivide it into 2 and build another house in the backyard is when I'm coming to you saying, I've done all the research, I've done all my due diligence, here's the due diligence I did, here's a rough budget on how much I think the DA is going to cost, here's roughly what I think the house configuration needs to be, so it meet the market standard. And I also got a rough sketch as well on the house. You give me a scope, you want to do 1 to 2 lot, you have a price range on purchase price, You have a rough budget on how much you want to spend on construction. That's just the hard cost. Then we come to agreement, okay, at the initial stage, when I introduce the site to you, obviously we already signed the documents on the buyer's agent fee. I'll present everything to you. How much it's going to cost you roughly, where the construction cost, if you were to build within the scope I mentioned to you in that DD document. And then I can do some rough numbers on getting some rough tenders on the architect, structural drawings, and stormwater. Is it bushfire? Do we have any other concerns? Blah, blah, blah. We run through the whole thing. But that's not to say you have to engage me after the purchase. This is just the scope for you to consider. Obviously, I'll disclose the fees to you up front on, say, $1,000 on getting the DA approved. So I look after the whole DA process. You worry about nothing. And another $1,000 on compiling that document with all the scope of works ready for the builder to tender, to give us a quote. That document will have everything that you can see, touch, feel, and use as you walk into a house. It's all set out in there. The land, the DA application, got it through council, fully approved, and they're just sitting on it, ready, just waiting for the market to come back up, because we only spend $1 million on that thing. So my involvement is buyer's agent, looking after the DA application, getting through the construction certificate. Now we're just sitting there waiting for the market to come back up while the property is rented out. So we helped them to secure the land. The contract was exchanged in February 23. That's when the interest clock started ticking on that one. They bought it for $1.06 million. And not even 2 years. It's about a year and a half from now, September 23, that duplex now finished off. I managed the project from start to finish. I come up with the tendering documents and basically the whole thing. Project Hayden, we bought it for $1.86 million and they exchanged the contract in 22 May. That was a fair way back. Settled in August 22. They had quite a bit of muck around with the bank trying to figure out the finance because it's a very expensive build, around $1.7 to $1.8 million for the duplex. Mucking around with the bank for nearly 12 months. October last year, we started construction. Now all the frame and trusses are up. Normally, we have an on-site camera on each one of the job we have. If you look at this, that's a site camera. So you can see the progress. Stuff gets delivered. You can pan the camera left and right to see what's happening on the block of land. And the owners will have access to that thing as well. The builder have access to it too, just so it's easier to manage for us. What other subsequent service we can provide? Getting the DA through, how much that cost. Getting that scope of work ready for tender documents, how much that's going to cost. And normally what I say to people is, once we finish your negotiation with the builders, because we would have got 2 to 3 set of quotes from builders, select the builder, working through the whole process on negotiating back and forth, because the builder normally, they don't really always give you a straight answer, because you might be sending them the documents. They come back to you with a quote saying, I quote this, because that's normally the stuff we use. And you just got to pick it up, try to reconcile that within construction contract, and making sure all of the documents we provided are actually in the construction contract as well. If I facilitate that, getting the construction contract signed off is $1,000. From that onwards, most of my recommendation to the client is they can manage the builder themselves, or I just charge roughly $1,000 per month for the 9 months. So that's for my email back and forth liaising when the builder is up to, builder had already done the job, certified everything, engineer already provided certificate on that previous stage. The builder sent owner and Terry invoice 2 weeks ago. Why hasn't get paid? Or we already sent it to the bank, just waiting for the bank to approve, or they're gonna send a valuer down, blah, blah, blah. I'll liaise all of that. Plus I make around 2 to 3 trips down there to take some photos, because having that camera is good, but it's not good enough. That covers everything for the duration of that 10 months or 9 months. It doesn't go by how long the project will last, because otherwise I can have the easy life, right? Hey, slow down. So after that, it should have been finished off anyway. That alleviate you from having to deal with the stuff that you're not sure of when you should be positioning yourself to the builder. Should you be firm? Should you not be firm? Should you be courtesy? Or should you be just a little bit bully on the phone? Because sometimes they do need that sort of kick. And then occupation certificate, normally the builder will compile most of the stuff, but there are a degree of stuff needs to come through the owner as well, such as your utility application on the gas, on your meter, power meter, on your water authority applications, and finally, at each of the critical inspection stage, you don't want to wait until the last minute to compile those documents asking those certificate of your engineer or private certifiers. You want to collect them as you go through. So by the time the construction is done, we should have an occupation certificate at the same time.